Jonas, and this is the Society and Contemporaneity News. Today we have a special interview with the Professor Robert. It is now with you, Jefferson!
Here tonight with Professor Robert Levanian. He's graduated in Letras by the University of Rio Grande do Sul, URGS, and in journalism by PUC. It's good to have you here, Professor.
It's my pleasure.
So, Professor Robert, he was born in Egypt and came to Brazil when he was a kid. And tonight what I would like to ask you, Professor, is how was it? You coming to a new country where you didn't know any background of it? How was it like making friends and getting used to food, to the culture here in our country?
I have a background about Brazil. Carmen Miranda, Carnaval, and Café. The CCCs.
Nice.
Plus the Indians, the natives. As for the food, we were not... Egypt is a Muslim country. They don't eat anything that comes from pork, pig. So we never had, pork fat, things like that. Mm-hmm. So when we came to Brazil, the most used product in the kitchen was banha, right? And we had a hard time, getting used to it. So it was really, the food was feijão, black beans and rice. We didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite rough, it took us some time, to adjust.
To adjust to it, definitely. And
as for friends, we didn't have any. I couldn't speak the language, so how can you, make friends without the language?
Did you get frustrated by not having people
I
to
didn't
talk
have
to?
the notion of what was going on. I had my parents and I was perfectly okay.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, children were far more dependent on their parents than today. Mm-hmm. We didn't have any, email or computers or... There was no other way of communication.
So you were pretty much on your own.
Yeah.
And did you have brothers and sisters? Did you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
You're an only child. Okay. So can you recall when you figure out hey, I'm in a different country and I have to get used to Portuguese or to the culture, and you started gripping the country and gripping the language?
Well, when we came to Brazil, the Brazilian consul in Cairo told us that almost everybody in Brazil spoke English and French perfectly. This in 1950. As Egypt had been, a colony, a British colony, and many of the people spoke English, and my folks spoke English and French, we said, we don't have to learn the language because, we'll just speak French. So when we came here, nobody spoke. In 1950, imagine. So we got lost. And it took us a while, to learn the language. In my case, it was easier because I was a kid, kids learn faster. But my father, he was deaf from one of the ears, and he couldn't listen very well. So his Portuguese was always faulty, was not very good. But my mother had a slight accent, but she spoke well, and she read a lot.
And did you go to school? Did you start going to school in the same year when you arrived?
No, we arrived here in September. It was mid-term, it was not possible. But the following year, I began to have private lessons with a lady. Mm-hmm. And as I spoke French, it helped because they're rather close languages. And then I went to school, a regular school. Mm-hmm. And I remember it's not exactly bullying, but my classmates used to ask the teacher, why does he speak in such a strange way? It was my accent, and she said, he was born in a very, distant country. I was exotic bird.
Definitely. So, after some time living in Brazil, you have been in Brazil for 70 years?
68 years.
68 years. Awesome. So, did you feel that you were losing your mother tongue after some time? And when did you realize hey, I'm losing my Egyptian skills?
I never had an Egyptian skill. I spoke the language because we had to learn Arabic at school. But I was very young, so I forgot. My father didn't want to speak Arabic at home because he wanted me to learn Portuguese. So I think when I was probably on the 4th grade, the former primário, I had to start over again because I was too old for my age. But when I noticed that I was speaking Portuguese very well as my friends, colleagues, I began to feel that I was really beginning to belong to the new culture.
Awesome. Okay, Professor. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your interview. And that's it for tonight.
That will be $5.
$5, okay. Take care.
Okay.